Welcome to the Up in the Nosebleeds podcast with your hosts, Max Ralph and Zach Swain. Here you'll get a bird's eye view of your favorite sports, just like you get from a nosebleed seat. Hello, I'm Max here with Zach, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Up in the Nosebleeds podcast. I can't speak for you, Zach, but I'm personally pretty excited to be here just to get started with this and just talk about some sports.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about all the sports. We're both big sports guys, so this should be pretty fun.
Absolutely. So we actually kind of lucked out when we decided to do this. We've got a pretty special time to get started with March Madness going on, and we're going to get to that later. That's going to be the biggest part of today's episode. But first, I think another big storyline that we definitely want to touch on is NFL free agency. No doubt the biggest storyline has been the Patriots so far. I mean, they've spent more money than they have just about in total over the past three off seasons, just in 2 days this year. They signed two tight ends, the two top tight ends, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. They brought back some offensive line talent. And then I think another big story is, speaking of offensive linemen, the lack of offensive linemen headed to Seattle this offseason. And we already know Russell Wilson's pretty unhappy with the way his offensive line's shaping up. So, but what do you see from day one and early stages of day two here?
Yeah, like you said, the Patriots are kind of showing everyone that Robert Kraft is showing everyone he's got a little more money than everyone was thinking while Tommy Boy was in New England. But one thing, Cam Newton is still there. He re-signed with them for 1 year. It'll be interesting to see how he does since he was battling, not major injuries, but some minor injuries throughout the season last year.
Yeah, and he had COVID too.
Yep. I wonder if what they're thinking, because I don't think they're going to stick with Cam. I wonder if, they'll draft a quarterback maybe in the first round or later in the draft. But Bill Belichick's always got a plan. He definitely has something in mind.
Yeah, it's a little bit reminiscent of maybe the Drew Bledsoe type. Maybe they'll find their next Tom Brady in this draft, and he'll show up Cam Newton in the next year or two. But definitely been a really interesting first day. I know you're a big Bengals guy, and they actually poached a few names off the market, and I think a few fans were a little bit upset about Carl Lawson departing, but they picked up Trey Hendricks and just in today, Mike Hilton from the Steelers, who I'm a Steelers guy, big fan of Mike Hilton. I think he's one of the best nickelbacks in the league. And so Bengals might be making some noise in support of Joey B next year.
Yeah, with Mike Hilton and Awuzie from the Cowboys, that will more than likely end William Jackson III's tenure in Cincinnati. I don't see us bringing him back. I'm a big Will Jack guy, but he's kind of been inconsistent. So I think that's where Cincinnati is deciding to move on with him. And then with Carl Lawson, I'm pretty disappointed with that, but he seemed to get a bag from New York, guaranteed money-wise, where I think that's where Cincinnati said, all right, no thanks. Since last year we signed Trey Waynes and DJ Reader on big contracts. Mike Brown never does that, and he guaranteed him a lot of money. And, of course, both of them decided to basically be out the entire season. So I think Mike Brown's going a little lower on the guaranteed money. But I do like Trey Hendrickson. I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do on our defense.
Yeah, as much as people are making a big deal of the Patriots actually coming out and spending money this year, the Brown family and the Bengals have definitely stuck to the status quo so far this season. But definitely still in need of some offensive line help. And just like we mentioned with Seattle and Russell Wilson, it doesn't seem like Joey B's in the market to be getting too much help this year either. So definitely been an interesting first a day and a half from free agency. And there's going to be a lot more storylines and maybe stuff that we'll touch on next week a little bit more heavily. But today, what we really want to talk about is definitely March Madness. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a screen share here. And really what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the whole bracket together and give you some insight to our predictions. So let me pull this up quick. So before you say anything about how crazy I am, how wrong, I'm sure Zach is going to dispute a few of my opinions, but I'll just say it's been a long time coming since the last time we had March Madness, and since the last time that I've been able to get angry about my bracket busting. But let me tell you, I am ready to be hurt again. I don't know about you, Zach, but
Yeah, I'm definitely ready. I didn't enter any money leagues this year just because I know COVID's gonna knock out one of the big dogs. It's due to. I just feel it coming.
yeah, it's destined to happen. But guess what? I've already put a few bucks in here and there, and my bank account's getting tight anyways. But just quickly wrap up and hit the first four. Who do you think's gonna solidify those last four spots in the tourney?
I you know the three of the teams don't. I don't see them doing much. The one team that I focus on the most would definitely be Michigan State. Besides that, the first four to me seems kind of weak this year compared to other years. But I do see Michigan State possibly causing some ruckus in the brackets.
Yeah, Michigan State's definitely an interesting team to keep an eye on. They're actually underdogs going into the game against UCLA, but I tend to not bet against Tom Izzo and the Spartans because I mean we'll see later. I do have them right now. I've got them picked to move on to the round of 32, but yeah, the 16 seeds I don't really see a whole lot from, and Wichita State and Drake may actually be a really good game come down to the wire. And Wichita State obviously has a bit of a history in tournament and being some bracket busters, but Drake's got a really good team this year. They've got a great record, and that might be a good game. And I do like USC. I think USC is a tough team, but we'll get to that later. So I mean, let's just get going. We're gonna go through each of these games. We're gonna go region by region and just talk about what we see. And Zach, why don't you start us off with Gonzaga and then Norfolk State or App State? What do you see here?
To me, I don't see any sort of Virginia thing happening here. Gonzaga's got a really good team. They got 3 Wooden Award finalists, and I see them easily moving on to round of 32.
Yeah, it took a long time for a 16 seed to finally beat a 1, and I think it's probably going to take a long time again. Those 1 seeds are 1 seeds for a reason, and those 16 seeds are 16 seeds for a reason. Now, the next game, 8 and 9 seeds are always one of the biggest coin flip matchups of the bracket. Last year, the 9 seeds actually swept all 4 meetings, and OU and Missouri going off the bat right away. It should be an interesting one. What do you think?
I think this one's a coin flip, but I don't see either of these two really causing any damage in the next round with Gonzaga. So,
yeah, I'll agree with that. A big thing that I look for come tournament time is how hot a team is from beyond the arc. Neither of these teams shoot extraordinarily well from the three, and I think OU behind Austin Reeves has been a little bit more seasoned with the Big 12 and has had some tough matchups that they've been able to come out and win. So I like Oklahoma taking this one, but really, like we said, it is going to be a bit of a coin toss. How about Creighton and UC Santa Barbara? That's honestly a name that I had to look up before going into this one.
Yeah, Creighton to me is a team that I think they can go to the Sweet 16, but at the same time, there could be an upset that happens here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is big upset watch going on here. Creighton was exposed by a pretty weak Georgetown team. Now we could say Georgetown got hot at the right time, but they lost that game to Georgetown, who came in with a losing record to the tournament. I think Creighton's just too good for UC Santa Barbara. Yeah. I think Creighton is big time on upset watch here. Those 12 versus 5 games are always great ones to look at. But
yeah, that loss to Georgetown is either going to stunt their, their how they're playing, or they're going to be, of course, they're going to be motivated. But if the other team goes on a 10-0 run, they may be thinking, oh, here we go again, and they might just get a little out of it and start forcing shots that don't need to be taken. So we'll see how that game goes.
Yeah, that's a great point. College kids are always volatile when it comes to rebounding from a tough loss. They're either going to come out on fire or they're going to come out sluggish. And just like you said, they're going to get caught in a rut. And I like Creighton to take the first one. And But this is going to be interesting as we keep going through the bracket, because the next game might be the first one that I get a little bit of feedback for on my views. But I think this is, while Creighton is on upset watch, I think this is the first big time upset watch of this year's tournament. What do you see?
I totally agree. Virginia, they're in a tough spot right now. They got hit with COVID, unfortunately, and they'll be in quarantine until Thursday, I believe. So that means they'll only have around a day to practice, if at all. And I think they said this might be a situation where they don't even get to practice. It's just to show up and play. And that's never a good thing. OU will have the entire time to prepare, and they also have a Cinderella type kid story on their team. And Jason Preston, he had 0 college offers and decided to make a little highlight tape and post it on YouTube, and OU decided to bring him in, and he's done great there. He's their best player. He's a great passer, and he averages 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists while shooting over 50% from the floor. And some guys on ESPN, some of their analysis have been comparing him to LaMelo Ball, which I think is a very good comparison, in my opinion.
Yeah, Preston's a great story, and I myself am definitely a sucker for a good story. And I think it's a little bit misleading to look at the 11 to 98 BPI rank. I mean, sure, UVA's played tougher competition than OU, but I like to look at this number right here, the points per game. OU's up at 80.9, while UVA is only hitting 68.6, which isn't horrible, good enough, especially when you play defense as well as the Cavaliers do. But coming off of that COVID pause and the pace that these Bobcats love to play at, I think this is definitely upset watch, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pick Ohio to take this one. When you look at some of the higher seeds that end up winning big games, it's always because they've got one of the best kids in the country on their team. If you look at the last time we played John Morant with Murray State, not everybody really thought Murray State was that good of a team, but Morant put the team on his back and ended up winning in that 12-5 matchup. And this is 13-4, and I think we might see something here that's pretty special.
Yeah, this is a situation where OU goes as far as Jason Preston wants them to go. So we'll see where he takes
absolutely.
them.
So the next game is another first 4. And like we said, Wichita State versus Drake might be a really good matchup. And they're two teams that could come out making some noise. But I personally have a lot of good things to say about this USC team. So what do you like for this one?
I do too. Evan Mobley, he's going to be a top pick in the NBA draft if he decides to leave USC. But I don't see anyone going to be able to guard him in this matchup.
Yeah, Evan Mobley is a great talent, but I personally really have a weak spot for strong rebounding teams come tournament time and big teams. If you wanna convince me that you're going deep in the tournament, tell me you got good rebounding teams and a good outside shooting team. I don't care about defense that much. I do, but USC, one of the best rebounding teams in the country, and Evan Mobley just in a generational talent for the Trojans. So I think no matter who wins that first 4 game, USC should be able to take that one. And then we got Kansas, who is another team that's had some COVID pauses and missed a couple guys, including big man David McCormick. But what do you think here?
Well, Kansas is one of the big brand names in college basketball, so they always have a good recruiting class. So they're never going to be super bad. So I think they just have too many better athletic type players, and I feel like Washington is going to struggle being able to guard all those guys.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think this one's pretty easy. Agbaji and Bill Self's team is just, he's too good of a coach. Rock Chalk Jayhawk on that one. Oregon and VCU could be a pretty interesting matchup here. What do you see? Yeah,
I could. To me, this is another coin flip game. I could see it going either way, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like this Oregon team, but interesting point. I like looking at this similar games stat right here from ESPN. VCU's got the 51% advantage. Not big, but that means they won more times when they played a similar opponent to Oregon. And it's interesting. Their BPI ranks are fairly close, but Oregon scores a little bit more than VCU does, and I'm just going to go chalk on this one. And then Iowa, Grand Canyon. Do we really need to spend a whole lot of time on this one? I mean, come on, Luka Garza. Do you got to say more than that?
Nope, that's it. Keep going.
You got the Wooden Award Player of the Year. Move on to the next game. Gonzaga and OU. What do you think about this one?
It's over. Gonzaga. Moving on.
Gonzaga's a tough team. I mean, they're BPI ranked number 1. They're the number 1 overall seed for a reason. And I will say, number 1 overall seed is supposed to have the easiest path to the Final Four, but I actually think Baylor's probably got that one locked up this year. But don't look at my bracket, because you'll see that I don't actually have them going to the Final Four. But
the Zags they're also the first team to go into the NCAA tournament undefeated since Kentucky, with Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, that team.
Yeah. So Gonzaga's definitely got a special team this year. So this Creighton, Ohio game. Now this is tough. This is contingent on Virginia losing to Ohio. I think if UVA pulls their act together and beats the Bobcats, I think UVA has probably got a strong shot at beating this Creighton team, who we talked about might be on a little bit shaky ground. But Ohio's a tough team. I mean, like we said, scoring 80.9 per game, and the all-star Jason Preston. I mean, do you think Ohio's got a chance of taking this one if they end up making it to the round of 32?
I do have them taking this one. I'm riding with the Cinderella story.
Really? Okay.
I think the game with Creighton is a toss-up, so they might not even be there to play OU. But I'm taking the Bobcats in this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that Ohio Creighton matchup, should we be given the opportunity to watch it, is going to be must-see basketball. But I don't know. I love a Cinderella story, but they flame out at some point, and I'm not sure Jason Preston's going to have enough to carry his team through 2 top-tier matchups.
That is true.
USC Kansas, this is a big time matchup here, and assuming Kansas is fully healthy from their COVID protocols, this could be one of the best games in the tournament, I think.
Yeah, once again, I think Evan Mobley is just going to be too much, and he'll bring USC to the next round.
Yeah, I agree. I think Evan Mobley can really lock up the perimeter for USC, and KU's been streaky this year, really. And while USC's the 6th seed versus Kansas at the 3, USC's actually got the higher BPI rank. So, and like I said beforehand, the COVID positives might end up hurting the Jayhawks. And while I think this might be one of the best games from the tourney, I do like USC taking this one. So then we move on to the last game of the round of 32 for the West region, Oregon and Iowa. Now, we mentioned Oregon versus VCU might be a toss-up, and I don't know. I think just like last round, there's not much to say about this game.
No, Luka Garza fits in perfectly with the Hawkeyes, and he's surrounded with shooters. So if you're not stopping, if Luka's getting stopped, which doesn't happen very often, you better know that he's definitely getting double teamed. So that's leaving one of their great shooters out on the wing, and more than likely they'll knock you out from there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Iowa takes that one pretty handily. So then, I mean, once we get into these later round games, it's all dependent on who makes it here. But I think we can both agree that this Gonzaga team is going to be too much, no matter who comes in, whether it's Virginia, Creighton, or Ohio.
Yeah, like I was thinking, unfortunately for the Hawkeyes, who are having one of their best years of basketball for the program, unfortunately they got Gonzaga on their side of the bracket with Jalen Suggs and 2 other Wooden Award finalists. So I see Iowa going home.
Yeah, so I think Gonzaga is going to beat Creighton, and then I think USC's magic streak of being the 6th seed to the Sweet 16 is gonna die out with Iowa, because, like you mentioned before, Luka Garza is so strong and USC is strong inside. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna kick it out to CJ Frederick and Jordan Bohannon and Joe Wieskamp, who are just as solid players, and Iowa's a really complete team. And I kind of disagree. I think it's interesting. You look, Iowa and Gonzaga actually played this season already once, and Gonzaga actually took the game by 11 points. But if you look at it, Iowa shot 18% from three in that 11-point loss, and Gonzaga shot over 50% from the three and from the field. And I just don't know if that's going to be a repeatable performance for either team. Iowa's too good to shoot 18% from the three, and I think they're going to get hot. And like I said, 3-point shooting and rebounding, and you got Luka Garza inside, who's a bit of a sniper himself from deep. I just think Iowa's going to be too much for Gonzaga in this one. So I think that's the first big matchup where we've kind of differed. But I like Iowa to go to the Final Four, but I don't think taking Gonzaga is a bad pick at all. So let's move on down to the East region now. And we've got another 1 versus 16, and I don't think we have to say a whole lot about that one. Michigan's shown they're a really good team this year, and despite a little bit of rustiness from the COVID pause, I think they will handle whoever comes out of that first 4 game. So then we move on to another 8-9 game, and as we mentioned, 8-9s are usually coin tosses. Who do you like in this one?
I do like LSU. I see you have them going a little farther than I would have them, but I do think LSU has a good chance here.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit, and you can call me an idiot, call me dumb, whatever. But I watched that LSU game against Alabama in the SEC championship, but I'm telling you what, that team is scrappy. So I'll talk a little bit more about them later. But I like LSU in the first round against the Bonnies. So then we move on to Colorado and Georgetown, which Georgetown kind of snuck into this tournament. I don't think they're that good of a team. I mean, like I said, they came into the Big East tournament with a losing record. And Colorado has been a strong team who just barely got upset in their tournament. So what do you like in this one?
You know, Patrick Ewing, he's actually breaking news on ESPN. He's starting at center for Georgetown.
No, if that's the case, they're going straight to the championship for me.
Yeah, but Georgetown was projected to be last in their conference, and Patrick Ewing said I think he said they had 9 new players on their team, and then of course they started off slow. But now they're starting to get in a rhythm. I think all those new players that they got, they're slowly starting to understand how they're playing or how to play with each other. And I think, like you were saying earlier, it's about how hot you are coming into the tournament, and Georgetown is as hot as you can get. So I am picking Georgetown with the upset.
You're taking Georgetown over Colorado.
I am. They're coming in hot.
I gotta disagree with that one. I mean, I think the Buffaloes are just a really solid team. I mean, they're 3-1 against top 25 opponents. Georgetown's 3-4, same amount of wins, but man, I love the 3-point shooting from Colorado, and I really think they're a better team than a 5 seed. I think they could have easily been on that 4 line, and I mean, they beat USC 3 times, and while USC is down at a 6 seed, we've talked about how good that USC team is and how we think they're going to go a long way. And I don't know. I like Colorado in this one, honestly, and I'm a little bit surprised that you're picking the Hoyas because
it's
I don't
a long
know.
shot, but they're really hot right now. So
they're hot, and there's something to be said about that. But I just think this Colorado team is a sleeper pick, really. Okay, so let's move on to Florida State then. We can chat about how much we disagree on that game all day, but Florida State has been a really good team. I mean, and a really good program really for the past few years. And I love what the Seminoles are doing down there, and they're just a good team. I don't know that I think UNC Greensboro has much of a chance in this one, but what do you think?
No, I don't either. Florida State has a really good basketball program. One of my favorite players in college basketball last year was Devin Vassell, who ended up getting picked, I think 11th. He went to San Antonio, but anyway, I do like Florida State here.
Yeah, and a key stat that we'll talk about with the next game, but Florida State shoots 39% from the 3 as a team, which is a really solid mark. But moving on to the first 4 game that we actually had the most to say about, this is kind of just a gut feeling. I mean, I don't think BYU is a bad team, but Tom Izzo, it's hard for me to go against him. Like I said, they're actually projected to lose against UCLA, but I think it always seems to be an 11 seed that beats a 6 seed, and so I think this could be the one that actually ends up pulling it out.
Yeah, there always seems to be a first four team that goes sometimes to the Sweet 16, but I always feel like there's always one team that from the first four that makes some noise, and I see MSU beating UCLA, and I see them beating BYU as well.
Yeah, you could almost argue that first four games works to a little bit of the advantage of that team. I mean, you look at it, they're playing. I mean, while playing so many games in a short amount of time can be harmful to your team, there's also a perk that it kind of gets you warmed up and you're in the swing of things. While a lot of these teams have had a week-long break even. So I like Michigan State to take that one. But as you see, I think they're going to be I think their clock's going to run out pretty shortly. So I don't think there's much to say about this Texas game. I think Texas has a really good team this year. And Shaka Smart, who used to work some magic at VCU come tourney time, he's going to do the same thing with Texas this year, I think.
Yeah, I like the Michigan game. I don't know if you noticed, but I just ignored that one and went straight to the LSU game because we all know that game is going to be gone. The Texas game, they showed how good they were in the Big 12 championship, and they're hot. They're another hot team. I don't see them losing this one.
Yeah, they're definitely a strong team. Now, I think a lot of these 7 and 10 matchups this year are really good games, and this is just another one of them. UConn, I think, might be a little bit higher than I think they should be, but a lot of that comes because of James Bouknight, who is just a heck of a player. But Maryland, while their record's not great, they're coming out of the Big Ten, and they're 4-7 versus top 25 opponents, while UConn's 0-4. I think there's something to be said about a Maryland team that managed to almost hit 500 in the toughest conference in the country. And while this UConn team certainly isn't bad and has that storied player like I don't know, maybe this will ring a bell to UConn fans, but Kemba Walker. But I don't know. I like Maryland in this one.
Yeah, the 9-11 in the conference for the record is a bit misleading due to how stacked the Big Ten was this year in basketball. Usually teams that have a losing record in their conference don't turn out well in March Madness, but the Big Ten was just so good unless you were just had, Iowa, MSU is good, Illinois, Ohio State, like they're all good.
Yeah.
So every night when you're playing in the Big Ten, it's going to be a battle, which is I also think the UConn game is a coin flip, but I do think Maryland has been prepared well by facing all those big dogs in the Big Ten. And I think
I definitely agree. I mean, even if you look at the bottom half of the Big Ten, I mean, teams like Penn State beat this Virginia Tech team that's a 10 seed over here. And Minnesota was a really solid team as long as they were playing at home. And I really think that Maryland's record is misleading, like you said. And then the last game of the round of 64 in the East is I think it's a no-brainer, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Rick Pitino and the Iona Gales. They're a heck of a story. They weren't supposed to be anywhere near this tournament this year, and Pitino made it here, but unfortunately they drew one of the best teams in the country, I think, in Alabama.
Yeah, he was talking about how his hotels are a little worse than the last time he remembered back at Louisville, but that's because they're a lower seed. So he's probably used to getting through the first round pretty easily in the big hotels back when he was at Louisville. But now he realized he's got a big challenge ahead and he's going into this tournament not the favorite. So it's a little different for him. Unfortunately, I don't see him, Iona, winning this, not even making it close, honestly. I think Alabama.
Yeah, I'm not seeing much of a Middle Tennessee State, Michigan State vibe here in this one. I think Alabama's too good. So we move on. I think we'll have a lot to say about this matchup here. Michigan and LSU. Don't get me wrong. I think this game is going to be as good as any game in the tournament. And but I will say Michigan's shown some rust since their long COVID break, and including a loss to an Illinois team, which, as you can see, I have winning the whole thing. But they didn't have their top player, leading scorer, Ayo Dosunmu, and I mean, Michigan didn't just lose it; they got manhandled. And man, I think Michigan's a really good team. Hunter Dickinson is one of the best freshmen in the league, but like I told you, this is basically just a gut feeling. I watched that LSU team play in the SEC championship against Alabama, and they had plenty of chances to win it. They are scrappy and they can score a lot in a hurry. And I know you're gonna give me counterpoints here, but I've just got a gut feeling about LSU in this one.
Yeah, Michigan's a really good team. Isaiah Livers, though, he is their best player, and he is not playing. I don't remember if I've seen any sort of timetable of when he can return, but even without him, Michigan is still very good, and I just don't see LSU beating them, honestly. But without Livers, though, they are beatable. With Livers, Absolutely. It's a different story.
Maybe this is just me experiencing so many busted brackets in the past that I said, you know what, I can't have all 1 seeds going to the Elite Eight this year. But I don't know. Like I said, I watched that game and I felt something watching that LSU team. So don't be surprised, I'll say at the least. And I think this is another one that we can talk a lot about because you don't even have Colorado being in the round of 32 while I've got them beating Florida State. So what do you think?
Well, I have Georgetown going to the round of 32, and that's where I have them at because they're going home after that. Florida State's moving on to play Michigan, in my opinion.
I would 100% agree with you. If Georgetown wins that first game against Colorado, Florida State's moving on to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I see their momentum kind of cutting off from there.
Yeah, but maybe we could talk about if Colorado makes it to that point. What I see in this one is 2 really good teams, a 4-5 matchup, which I'm not sure what's the stat history on those. So 4 seeds have won 55% of them, and the last tournament, Auburn was the only one to win. And what's something that Auburn did really well in the 2019 tournament? They shot the 3. And Florida State 39%. But here's the other thing. Colorado's somewhere, I can't remember exactly. I think they're somewhere around 37, 38. So there's not a big drop-off. And if you're giving me a really close game between these 2 teams, look at this stat. Florida State's 73.8% from the free throw line, while Colorado's shooting 82.2% as a team. So if you've got a 2 or 3 point game coming down to the wire, who are you going to put your money on? If you're asking me, I'm going to go for the team that's shooting over 80% as a team from the free throw line.
Yeah, to me, I will not be surprised if this Florida State plays Colorado. And if that does happen, I do think it is a coin toss.
Yeah.
So I don't have much to say on that just because I really do think they're so close in talent-wise that it's going to go either way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I pulled out the free throw stat because I think it's going to be such a close game. So move on to what we presume will be Michigan State versus Texas. And like I said, Shaka Smart, magic man. I think Texas is too strong this year.
Yeah, once again, they looked really good in the Big 12 championship. And I don't see them losing.
Yeah, I think the next game is interesting too. I think we're both in agreement that Maryland can probably take that game and match up with Alabama. And Bama's just so good. And while Maryland, I think, is definitely underrated, Bama, man, they are just tough. And like I said, that LSU team who looked so good in the SEC championship, well, they lost to that Alabama team who looked just a little bit better. So I think Alabama will take that one, but
yeah, I agree.
So then I've got a completely different look here than you do, but LSU versus Colorado. I might rescind my judgment here. I don't know. I might give it to Colorado over LSU, but I'm telling you, I got a gut feeling for them. But let's say it's Michigan and Colorado, or Michigan and FSU. Who do you take? Who do you have taking it?
Well, once again, I have Michigan. They're just, to me, they got a lot of depth, and who knows, maybe Isaiah will be back for that game. I'm not sure, and if he is, then I have them moving on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reports are on for Livers, but if they make it past LSU, I would say they probably have a good chance at beating Colorado or Florida State, really, realistically. But I think Michigan's faltered a couple times this season, and especially since their COVID pause. So I think that game against LSU could be one where they do it again. I think this is a big game, and honestly a big upset to have Texas going over Alabama here. But what do you think about that one?
Uh, I can see this happening. I have two different brackets actually, and I have that happening in one of them. I have Alabama winning in the other one. Uh, to me, this is going to be a very close game, another coin flip game if it happens. It will be great for ESPN or wherever they'll be broadcasting this game because it's going to have a lot of viewers if this
Oh yeah,
happens.
yeah.
So if this happens, it will be exciting to watch. Um, Texas, we'll see if they can continue their momentum coming off their conference championship. And we'll see if Alabama can do the same thing because they won their conference as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite stat to look at in this one is Texas is 7-6 versus top 25 teams, and Alabama's 1-3. And I think what that says is that Texas has played in the tougher conference. I mean, the Big 12 is right there with the Big 10 from top to bottom, just really solid teams. And I think that says something about a team that's been battle tested through a tough conference. So, like you said, I think this is a coin flip, but I like Texas.
Yeah, this isn't football. Alabama's actually beatable in this.
So I think LSU's magic runs out for me here, and I like Shaka Smart to take his team to the Final Four. What about you?
Yeah, to me, zero chance LSU gets there.
Okay. So say Michigan's in the game. What do you have then?
I still have Texas taking it. I would still,
Okay.
if I would assume if Livers didn't play, I don't think he'll play again, and that's where Livers' injury will come to haunt the Wolverines, and their madness run will end there.
Yeah. I like this Texas team a lot. They're scrappy, and I love the story of Andrew Jones. Man, just coming back from cancer, it's reminiscent of James Conner, who's the Steelers running back now. And man, it's a great story. And Shaka Smart, like you said, has always been a bit of a magic man come tourney time. So I really think Texas could make a Final Four here. So let's move on to the Midwest. Let's just
Next
ignore
one.
the fact that Illinois is playing Drexel. You might as well have given them a bye.
Yeah.
But Loyola Chicago versus Georgia Tech. I mean, the Ramblers. Come on, what year was that? Was that 2018 when they made a Final Four appearance as an 11 seed?
It was.
I don't think it's happening again. But what do you think?
Well, there was news earlier today that the 101-year-old legend, Sister Jean, will be attending the game,
Oh
and
man.
Loyola Chicago will not let Sister Jean down,
Oh
and they
man.
will move
I didn't
on.
see. I didn't know about this. I didn't know Sister
Yes,
Jean was gonna be there. This might change things.
it came in earlier today. Sister Jean will be at the game.
Oh man. Okay. You see, that's some great insider info from you there, Zach. But I don't know. All the game predictor stats go in Loyola's favor, but I like looking at Georgia Tech's resume here. They beat a Florida State team who I think is really solid and can make some noise twice. They beat North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Syracuse. I think Georgia Tech's got a pretty good resume, and I think Georgia Tech scoring 75.5 per game is going to outpace what the Ramblers can keep up with. My apologies to Sister Jean, but I like Georgia Tech in this one.
Yeah, we'll have to see what
So
Sister Jean's doing.
Oregon State and Tennessee. Oregon State was not anybody's pick to win the Pac-12, but I don't think. I mean, they're kind of like Georgetown. They got hot at the right time, but I think Rick Barnes is too experienced, and his roster is going to be able to clean up shop.
Yeah, same thing with what I was saying about Georgetown earlier. Oregon State's coming in with a streakiness to them. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an upset here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee won either because they got a good team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think both teams have been pretty inconsistent on the year, but I think Tennessee's defense is pretty strong and it'll be able to shut down the Beavers. So then Oklahoma State and Liberty. I've got a few friends out at Liberty, and they're a really good outside shooting team, and they've been a good story the past few years. They've been in the tournament a lot of times out of the ASUN, but uh, let's just say Oklahoma State has Cade Cunningham, and we can treat that a little bit like the Luka Garza effect, I think. He's just too good.
Yeah, Cade Cunningham is the most NBA ready player in this draft. He can do it all. Kind of reminds me of Ben Simmons, except this dude actually knows how to put the ball in the hoop from closer than 5 feet.
Yep.
So honestly, I think this team can be a dark horse team. I really do think they could make it far in this tournament, and I see Cade Cunningham saying, "I've never even heard of Liberty before," and he's moving on.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. We talked about it with Jason Preston, but the difference between OU and OSU is that OSU's got a bit more of a supporting cast around their star, and I think they're definitely a dark horse. But unfortunately, they matched up with who I think is the best team in the nation in their bracket. I think the next game is probably the biggest coin flip of the tournament. One of them, at the very least. San Diego State, I think, is maybe ranked a little bit higher than they need to be. But interesting to say is that one of their leading scorers, Shackle, is hitting 47% from three, which is just a blistering mark. I like that the Orange will be able to dictate the pace a little bit better and play the defense the way they want to, but I think SDSU is just a little bit too tough for them.
I'm taking Syracuse actually. Boeheim's been shooting the you know what out of the ball recently. Here's an interesting stat actually for 11 seeds, which is what Syracuse is. In 2019, for just the second time in the past 10 tournaments, none of the number 11 seeds reached the Sweet 16 and only won a first round game. Despite that, the 11 seeds remain the most accomplished of the Cinderellas since the first four began in 2011. The 11 seed that I could see doing this, obviously, is Syracuse. I could see them making a little Cinderella run. They've been really hot as of late from what I've seen watching them. Boeheim is a dangerous shooter. He can get 30 points on any given night. That's how good he shoots.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that because I think when you look at the pairings of 6 seeds and 3 seeds that they'd have to go through, I think Syracuse is one of the most favorable matchups for 11 seeds. But I do think San Diego State's gonna pull that one out. But next game, West Virginia. I mean, I love Huggy. I love Bob Huggins. I love what he's done in Press Virginia down there, and I don't think there's much more to say. West Virginia's played really well this season, and they've had some tough losses in that Big 12 conference that we already mentioned, but I think they're too strong for Moorhead.
Yeah, one of West Virginia's better players from the past, Javon Carter, won Defensive Player of the Year there at West Virginia, and he has something what's called treadmill mentality, and West Virginia seems to have that all the time, as in constantly keep going, like a treadmill. It's always going, it's always going. So you want to have that mentality, which is why they're always up there in best defensive teams in the nation. I don't see Moorhead State. They also can shoot very well, West Virginia. But anyway, Moorhead State, I don't see them liking their matchup at all here. They're going to be smothered.
So, yeah, I agree. I think West Virginia is going to pull this one out. So then we can talk about another 7-10 matchup that features another Big Ten team whose record might be a little bit misleading. I don't think this Rutgers team is I don't think they're world beaters, but Clemson at the 7 seeds, only a 38 BPI rank, where Rutgers is 45th. And they're another team that managed to go 500 in the conference, despite it being the Big Ten. And Rutgers has, I talked about the stat earlier, but they have that 65% advantage in similar games, and their actual power rating is higher as well. So I like Rutgers to take this one.
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you play in the Big Ten. Unless you're among the top dogs, you're going to have a little worse record. This is just like the Maryland game. Coin flip. I can totally see Rutgers moving on here. They've been prepared well, playing in that stacked conference of the Big Ten, and I agree. I think the Rutgers will get an upset here.
Yeah. And then I think Houston's shown they're a really good team, and I don't think Cleveland State's going to give them much of a challenge. But I will say I think Houston's not seen too much competition this year, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But we can move on. Like I said earlier, I think Illinois is the best team in the nation, and anybody's subject to upsets in the NCAA tournament. But I think Illinois takes the one against Georgia Tech pretty handily.
Yeah, unfortunately, Houston knocked out my Bearcats. So
Yeah.
To me, they looked really good in that game. So I think they can go ways in this tournament.
Yeah, so I think when we move on to the Tennessee Oklahoma State game, I think those 5 versus 4 games are always really interesting. But I think Tennessee just doesn't have the firepower to keep up with Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, in my opinion, I don't even Tennessee might not even be there. But either way, I do see Cade Cunningham next round.
Yeah. So then, whether you got Syracuse or San Diego State, I think we've established that we think West Virginia is a really good team for having a 3 seed, and I think I see them moving on.
I do too, but like the stat I was reading earlier says, the 11 seeds seem to be the Cinderella stories. Once again, I could see Syracuse getting hot and beating West Virginia, but West Virginia is going to be one of the harder teams to get hot against due to how good they are at defense. So that's pretty unfortunate for Syracuse.
Yeah, it's a tough draw for sure.
Yeah,
and I think Jim Boeheim's, when I think about teams that have, and specifically 11 seeds, I don't know what it is, but it feels in my head that Syracuse is always that 11 seed that makes the run. But yeah,
they made it in the first 4. I'm pretty sure a couple years back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see West Virginia moving on.
Yeah. So then to talk about the Rutgers and Houston game again, we mentioned that Rutgers is a better team than their record, and I said that I don't think Houston is really that special. I mean, they're a good team. They're a 2 seed for a reason. But if you look at this stat here, the similar game stat, which I've brought up multiple times, Rutgers, the 10 seed, actually has a better rating than the 2 seed Houston. And I think that this is going to be one of the toughest matchups Houston's had to face this year. And I think this is upset watch. I like Houston to take it, but I think this is upset watch.
Yeah, Houston plays in a really weak conference, in the American Conference, with Wichita State, Xavier, Cincinnati. Xavier and Cincinnati are usually, very good programs, but this year they just weren't. So Houston had a little bit easier this year. Memphis, every time they played Memphis, they played them hard, but Houston's been getting the better of them. I think Houston, depending on, they're always going to play good defense. So if they hit their shots, they'll move on. But I do think that weak competition throughout the American League is going to come back to haunt them, and they won't be ready for that treadmill mentality type team in West Virginia.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Houston will move on to the Sweet 16, but as you can see, I don't have them going past that. But let's talk about the Illinois-Oklahoma State game first. And I think it goes without saying that Ayo Dosunmu versus Cade Cunningham might be the most premier matchup that we've got in this one, besides maybe Kofi Coburn versus Luka Garza if we end up getting to that point. But yeah, I think Dosunmu and Cunningham are going to be marquee basketball, but I think that leaves the floor open for Coburn to kind of take advantage of this game. And I think Illinois, like I keep saying, is the best team in the nation, and I think they'll move on here.
Yeah, I agree. I think Coburn is the difference maker here, because he has a sidekick, or Dosunmu has a sidekick in Coburn. Cade Cunningham doesn't really have that, second really good player. Coburn is also a finalist for the Wooden Award along with DeSumo. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham would have to go off, but
Yeah, absolutely.
he can't do that. So I could possibly see Oklahoma State moving on, but at the end of the day, I think Illinois is just got too much on the team. As we saw them against Ohio State, it looked like Ohio State was dead in the water. Started to come back a little bit, and Illinois said, "All right, enough of that." And they just ended them.
Yeah, and we haven't even mentioned Andre Curbello's name, who is a heck of a player coming off the bench for Illinois. He's really come on later in the season, so I think they're just too deep. West Virginia and Houston. I like West Virginia to, even though I don't really think it's much of an upset. BPI rank might tell you differently, but I think I like West Virginia to take this one. I'll do my best Dickie V impression, but press Virginia, baby.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Said. So,
yeah, I agree. I don't, like I was saying earlier, the American Conference is weak, and that's going to come back and bite Houston.
Yeah. And another, again, I'm going to keep reiterating this. I like the similar game stat, and West Virginia takes it again over Houston. So I think that the Bearcats sorry, not the Bearcats.
Go Bearcats.
Yeah, that's UC, but I think the Mountaineers overpower them. And then I've got Illinois going on to the Final Four over West Virginia. I think we've said enough about both teams. I think they're both really solid, but what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. They're too much. They'll make it.
Yeah, I think the South region is going to be one of the more interesting ones for us to take a look at. Let's not even talk about Baylor versus Hartford. I don't even know where Hartford is, and Baylor's got Jared Butler, so they win. Yes. Wisconsin and North Carolina. North Carolina, obviously one of the blue bloods, and doesn't really have the seeding that they've had in the past. Doesn't have the team that they've had in the past. I'll let you talk first, but I have some things to say about this game.
Yeah, I am a North Carolina fan as well. I like North Carolina. North Carolina is usually a team that's got a lot of, experience with guys of like Luke May, Bryce Johnson, stuff like that. But this year, they're more young. But like you were saying earlier, you like teams that go after and get those rebounds, and that's Carolina. If you want one of those teams, they lead the nation in offensive rebounds. They got three monsters, that play center, and Garrison Brooks being the main one. And Caleb Love, who is their point guard, he's a freshman. If he has turnover problems, and if he keeps those turnovers down, I do think that Carolina's size will just be too much.
Yeah, Wisconsin with Greg Gard is a great team. I think, again, their record's a little bit understated in the Big Ten. Going up against the size that UNC has is definitely going to be a disadvantage for Wisconsin. They definitely saw it in the Big Ten, where talented big men run rampant with Hunter Dickinson, Kofi Coburn, Luka Garza, EJ Liddell. They're crazy. And Wisconsin's been rotating Micah Potter and Nate Reavers all season, and they're both solid players, but they haven't stood up to the competition in the Big Ten. But I'll give you this name. Brad Davison is an absolute gamer. I don't care what you have to say about UNC. Brad Davison is a gamer, and he is a guy that I would hate to see on the floor opposite me. I don't even care how good he is. He's just a dog. He'll work his heart out for Wisconsin, and you've seen it over his years there. Wisconsin actually has the higher BPI in this one, and they have the similar games rating like I've been coming back to over and over. So I like Wisconsin in this one. I don't know about you. I think you like UNC, but I think this is going to be great basketball. And then Villanova, I like the ups in this game. Winthrop is scoring 80 points per game, and Villanova is missing their top player. So what do you think?
Yeah, Colin Gillespie is a big-time loss, but Villanova has a ton of experience when it comes to playing in March, and I do think that's going to be a difference in this game.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against Jay Wright in this one, but Winthrop's only got one loss on the season, and the a winning program means a lot. And I think if they come out and push the pace and kind of put Villanova on their heels to start the game, they might be able to pull this one out. I think Villanova is without a doubt the better team, even without Connor Gillespie. But I think the shock factor comes into play with this one when you're dealing with a 12 seed like Winthrop. But I think they're a good team, and I think if they come out and force the issue early on, I think they might put Villanova on their heels and be able to take this one. I like Purdue's team. Purdue was not like one of the top teams early on in the season. They weren't bad, but they've really come on here, and I like Purdue's team a lot. And don't look now, but I think I see them making a push to the Final Four as a bit of a dark horse. But I think they'll beat North Texas.
Yeah, they don't have that 5'10" ish killer in Carson Edwards anymore,
They
but
don't.
I do think they're still a very good team, and I pick them as well.
They don't have Carson Edwards, but they've got Jaden Ivey, who he's a heck of a baller. So Texas Tech, I think, is another really good team. I think anytime you've got a Big Ten team or a Big 12 team, you're making a safe bet going with them in this tournament, just because both teams are so strong. And I think out of the 11 seeds, I think Utah State might be the weakest out of all the 11 seeds, even including the first four games. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think Texas Tech's got a good team. Um, I really like Mac McClung. I
Yeah,
think he's a very good player. Um, and I think once again, Texas Tech goes as far like OU and Oklahoma State. They'll go as far as Mac McClung takes them.
yeah, I agree. Uh, I think this next game is upset watch. I like Arkansas to take it, but these are some high-powered
I,
offenses going at
yeah, I
each
saw
other.
that.
Arkansas at 82 a game and Colgate at 86. So, man, 86 points a game in college is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, you're not getting there unless you're shooting well.
And if you take a look at this, Colgate's power rating is actually higher than Arkansas's. And for a team that's a 14 seed, they've got a 44 BPI rank. This is upset watch if you've ever seen it. I think Arkansas will take it just because they play in the tougher conference. They're more seasoned, but Colgate could make a run in this tournament, and I would not be surprised.
Well, as you can see, they average 86 points per game, and any team that does that, that means that they can get hot behind the arc,
Oh, yeah.
and they can also get cold. That three can dig you into the dirt as well. But
Live and die by it.
yep, exactly. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Colgate comes out and just hits 14 of 23s and upsets Arkansas. But I wouldn't be surprised either if Arkansas blows them out, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised by that either.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arkansas is the stronger team, but man, we talked about Loyola Ramblers. I think this is the reincarnation here. They just might get hot and not stop and make it all the way to that Sweet 16 or even further. But I think the Razorbacks will hold on to it. But I might secretly have another bracket that has Colgate going pretty deep. Uh, Florida and Virginia Tech. I think of the 7 and 10 games, I think this is probably the weakest. I don't think they're a bad team, but I watched them early on in the season get ran out of the gym by a Penn State team that just wasn't that solid. Um, Florida had a huge loss with Keontae Johnson going down, and I think that stunts their chances of going deep in the tourney. But what do you think?
Yeah, this is another game for me where I think it's a coin toss. In both my brackets, I have Virginia Tech winning one, Florida winning the other one. So I wouldn't be surprised either way, how this game goes.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Florida will win it, but I think it's a bit of a coin toss. 7 and 10 games are in a lot of tournaments. How about Ohio State? I mean, we mentioned Dwayne Washington, EJ Liddell. I think they're really solid, and I think they've got a chance to make a run and definitely beat Oral Roberts.
Yeah, yeah. I say they got a good chance. Actually, I forget who it was, but I saw someone predicting a upset here, which I totally disagree with. But
Well, the nation's leading regular season scorer, as you see here, actually resides at
yeah, was it
Oral
like
Roberts.
28 or something?
and no one hits more threes. So we talk about Colgate getting hot from the
That
arc.
is true. That is true.
This might be upset watch. This could have Middle Tennessee State written all over it, but Ohio State's a good team. So
I mean, they showed it against Illinois. If you can play with Illinois, get into overtime, I don't see a team like this beating them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ohio State's too strong. If you had Oral Roberts playing the likes of Houston, maybe we got a game to talk about.
Yes,
but I think Ohio State's
definitely
pretty solid. So we talked about Baylor, and they're just too good. I mean, they're top team in the Big 12. So, and we talked about Wisconsin. I think they barely scraped by UNC. I think it's a done deal. Baylor wins. I don't know if you have a rebuttal, but I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Carolina makes it, I could see them, once again grabbing 20 offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
And if that happens, they could upset Baylor. But if not, Baylor's got a great team this year, and I do think they'll win.
The classic Torian Prince post game interview comes to mind after you said that. How does Harvard out rebound Baylor?
Well, they went up and
they grab the ball and they bring it back down. Yeah. That's so funny. So you had Villanova winning. I think this is a game that Winthrop might take, but I could see Villanova winning all the same. But I talked about how high I am on this Purdue team. I just think Purdue's really strong. I think they're really deep. I mean, their leading scorer is Travion Williams, who's one of the best big men in the Big Ten, and honestly, they don't even need to lean on him. They've got Zachy Day, who's 7'4", is an absolute freak, and him and Jaden Ivey, the two freshmen, are really coming on strong. And I think especially if Winthrop beats Villanova, I think the Cinderella story ends there. But even against Villanova, I think I'd like Purdue to win that game.
Yeah, Colin Gillespie here is the big problem with Villanova. Him going down with that torn MCL is going to haunt them. I think with Colin Gillespie, I may go Villanova here, but I do like Purdue.
Yeah.
And Villanova struggled without Gillespie. Without them, they lost both of their games since he got hurt to Providence and Georgetown.
Yeah, I'd agree. Arkansas is that high-powered offense that we talked about, but I think I'm actually going to change my mind here and go with Texas Tech. But yeah, Arkansas could pull it out just because of the pure power of their offense. But I like Texas Tech. I think Mac McClung and Marcus Santos Silva, the two transfers, have been a really big team, really big additions for this team. And I think they're really strong, and especially coming out of the Big 12, I think they'll probably take that one, whether it's Colgate or Arkansas that comes out of that game.
Yeah, I think that's a great flip in picks there because I picked Texas Tech too.
Like I said, anything that you picked is the right call, huh?
Yes, it is. Who is it? Warren Buffett that offers that $1 million a year if you get 100% on your bracket.
You might as well just call him up now, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking for his number by the beginning of April. So
I guess he's probably somewhere out on a big stack of money.
Yeah.
But next game, Ohio State, we talked about them. They're a good team, seasoned out of the Big Ten. And Florida, if they make it through, is just missing Keontae Johnson, which is a big blow. And it's a little bit like the Colin Gillespie situation. So I like Ohio State to move on.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think there's much to say about this game, whether it's Florida or Virginia Tech. Ohio State pretty easily, I think, is going to win this one.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like Purdue to beat Baylor. I think Purdue is a team with Williams and Ide. I think they can out-rebound the Bears. And I'll tell you what, Sasha Stefanovic his name doesn't come up very often, but he has got one of the wettest jumpers I've seen in the NCAA. And him and Jaden Ivey might just carry this Purdue team to a win over Baylor, who was for a long time sought after as the best team in the nation.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure most people will go on my side and take Baylor. Their backcourt is very good, and I just don't see Purdue beating them.
I mean, I can agree with you. I think this is another situation where I'm maybe just being a little bit more aggressive with my picks than I have been in past years. But I think if there's a game where a one seed is, if there's a game, let's not talk about Michigan. Um, but
Well, they're
I
without
think
their best players, so
right. I think the healthy one seeds. I think this is the game that might give them the most trouble. Um, I think Ohio State beats Texas Tech.
I do
Tech's
too.
good, but EJ Liddell's had a really great season, and I, Texas Tech just doesn't really have. I talked about Santos Silva, who's a really great inside presence, but I think Liddell's just better.
Yeah, I agree. And Dwayne Washington's really starting to heat up for the Buckeyes, so
Yeah,
uh, I think they're just too much for Texas Tech at the end of the day.
yeah. And then if Baylor moves on, I'll have you explain your thought process behind that. But I think for me, I'm taking Purdue to actually make a bit of a dark horse run to the Final Four. Purdue won 2 of 3 in the season against Ohio State. And if I pull it up here, they have the 60% advantage in similar games, which I've used as a lot of reference for my favorite stat this year. Both coming out of the Big Ten, and Purdue actually ended up the higher seed in the Big Ten tournament, lost to them, but that'll be a really good game. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Buckeyes pull it out, but I'm going to go with the team that gets hot and take Purdue.
Yeah, I think Dwayne Washington is going to continue to, let's say, erupt, I guess, in
Yeah.
scoring the ball. He's had his career high against Illinois with, I think, like 30 something. But I think I'm taking Ohio State. I think they're going to make it into the Final Four.
Even if Baylor's the team in that game.
Even if Baylor's the team in the game, I do think Ohio State is going to make it to the Final Four.
Interesting. I think if Baylor got there, I think Baylor would move on to the Final Four. But like I said, I'm going to take the team that's hot.
When you can place second in the Big Ten championship game, that shows you're doing something right.
I agree, but the Big 12 is right there with them. Let's talk about Baylor, Kansas, Texas, Texas Tech, West Virginia. They're loaded too. So I think while I don't discount for games like Rutgers and Maryland, I think comparing Big 12 to Big 10 is not as big of a difference as it may seem. So you had Gonzaga here. I have Iowa. I think they get hot from the 3. And then I think once you get to the Final Four, it's all about the guys that you've got on your team rather
Well,
than
Max,
who
I would
gets
like
hot.
to. I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I have breaking news from Adam Schefter here. I know you're a big Bears guy, and they just signed my guy Andy Dalton.
Did they really?
They did.
They sure did. I saw the reports, and I can't say I'm.
Red Rifle on the team.
I can't say I'm too happy about that. We
Hey,
can sit here.
I can tell you one thing though. I've met him before. He's a really nice guy. But his best days in the NFL are behind him at this
Hey,
point.
he had that near MVP season a few years ago, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I don't know, man.
I had to bring that up real quick.
I can do my research and tell you how I feel later. But let's talk about basketball, which is why we're here. And I like Iowa to get hot. And like I was saying, I think when you get to the Final Four, it comes down to the guys that you've got on your team. And let me tell you, Luka Garza is that guy. If they make it to the Final Four, I don't think Texas stands a chance at shutting down Garza. He's just – there's a reason they've already announced they're retiring his number. He's just too good. While Texas is a great team, and I think it'll be a little bit of a surprise to some people maybe if they make it to the Final Four. I just think Iowa. I think Iowa or Gonzaga, whoever makes it in that game, wins it.
Well, to the people who are, not huge into college basketball and they really only get into it during, bracket season, March Madness. At this point, they will know who Jalen Suggs is for Gonzaga, and
Absolutely.
I think he is going to lead them over the Hawkeyes into the Final Four.
I think you can make the same argument that I just made for Garza, though.
That is true. That is true.
Texas has Andrew Jones. He's been good, but he's not at the level that Garza or Suggs is for either team. And I think that's why if Illinois were to lose to Oklahoma State, I think that's why when you get to the Final Four, Cade Cunningham would be that guy that makes the difference. And the first few rounds, you're always going to see some upsets, but once you get into the thick of things, it's all about the dudes on those teams. And I think Iowa or Gonzaga outclasses Texas.
Here's the difference between Iowa and Gonzaga. So Iowa's got Luka Garza, and Gonzaga's got Jalen Suggs. But then along with Suggs, they got two other Wooden Award finalists in Corey Kispert and Drew Timme. So I think those three, which make up 20% of the Wooden Award finalists, all on Gonzaga, will be just too much for Iowa.
I can agree, and I think the same argument goes for Illinois in the other half of the bracket. I'm not saying you're an idiot for picking Gonzaga. I like the Hawkeyes, and they've had a few games that they've lost close, and just maybe are a little bit disappointed that the season they had a heck of a season, but maybe didn't turn out exactly how they wanted to. Didn't win the Big Ten championship, and I think they're going to get another crack at Illinois. But let's talk about Illinois and Purdue. Like you said, you don't really think Purdue is going to get there. I think this is the one situation where a solid team that gets hot is able to go into the Final Four. But once again, it's all about those dudes. And Kofi Cockburn and Ayo Dosunmu are two of those dudes. And it's tough to beat them.
Yeah, I agree. No matter who we got making it to the Final Four, I have Illinois walking into the national championship.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I've got 3 Big Ten teams in the Final Four, and maybe that's just what I want to see because I followed Big Ten basketball more than other conferences. But I think these 2 games, no matter who's in it, are going to be great this year. There's some really good teams. So if you go to the final, I'll throw some stats out as to why I see Illinois winning. But they already played each other once. And Garza and Cockburn both got in a little bit of foul trouble, but still put up 20-plus points. And I think this is a close game. I think Iowa, should this be the matchup, would put up a really tough fight. They shoot better from the free throw line and from the 3. And if there's something that's going to kill Illinois in this tournament, it's their free throw shooting. It's at only 69.1%. But I just like to ride, like I said, those dudes, Dosunmu and Cockburn, and then Curbelo coming off the bench. I just think they're too versatile to beat. And Illinois has already beaten Iowa this season. So, but you think Gonzaga is going to be there. So tell me why you think they're going to win.
I think Gonzaga is going to be there, and they're going to be, I don't think, or at least no one recently has gone undefeated in a whole season, but I think Gonzaga will be the team to do that. I think they'll finish undefeated, and I think they'll send those. I think their 3 Wooden Award finalists will send Illinois 2 home.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you. I'm not going to disagree too hard with that, but I think this is going to be a great tournament, and you just can't really ask for much more. So we did go a little bit longer than I think we expected to, but for our first episode and for having a March Madness special like that, I think that's okay. So I'm not sure what next week's going to have for us. I think we'll probably recap a few of the games and maybe cry about how busted our brackets are, but maybe we'll hit some more free agency next week. But we're both really excited to do this podcast and get this started. And I think the first episode was a success, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out the Up in the Nosebleeds podcast. Follow us on Twitter at NosebleedsPod1 and DM or email us with questions or feedback. Catch you next week.